Okay, so the Process Manager is a tool on the city. It's located in the constructing part of it, or the building of a process manager is done on the back end. The front end, a process can show up in a group. If we go to the training church here, this is a separate instance of the city that we used to use for training. Some of you may still be on it, but you can see up here in the training church, which is kind of our overall group, we've promoted this process up here in the top, so people can start it or continue it from there. Once someone has started a process, it shows up in their reminders. And then the last place, which is probably the most common place that people will promote their processes and allow people to get in, is through the actual promotions here on the side. So you can actually promote the process up here at the top of a group, over here in one of the promotions, and then once they're in it, you can actually get back to it through your reminders. You can always link to a process through a hyperlink as well, so keep that in mind. There's a lot of ways to kind of get those out of here. You can see here, or get those processes into the hands of the people. You can see here in the New to the City Start Here post, Tim has not only put in a number of comments and kind of helpful tips, but he's also embedded a link to the process. So if I go to this process, it's going to open in a new window. We're going to let that load real quick while I also go to the admin screen on this tab. We can see here that we have a web address up here at the top, and this web address is going to be the same for any process that you go to. So we have training.onthecity.org/process_definitions/710. So it's going to be the same web address for any process except for two things. The training, which is the instance of this particular city, will be changed to your church name or your church URL for the city. And then the process number here, this is the process that's being selected. So as you make a new process, it will get a new process number. Let's go ahead and jump back to the admin panel here. We can see the process menu is here. That's because I have privileges to access processes. If we go to the privilege menu, first thing we're going to do down here is go to process admin, and we'll just make sure that we're on, or we're in this list, listed as a process admin. Process admin gives us access to this admin screen in the back, which is the processes, and we can start building. Now, before we jump into building a process, I want to get you familiar with some of the basic terms that build or that make up a process. So a process is going to be kind of a linear, step-by-step process for someone to go through. These are commonly used for member processes, for volunteer training, for Bible study. Some churches have even talked about doing small group curriculum through the Process Manager. There are all sorts of kind of children's ministry volunteer type qualifying processes. There's a lot of things that you can do with them, but there are things that you can't do with them either. This is not a tool to take surveys or do things like that. It is commonly used in what we call a city census to keep your data fresh and right up to date. You can put a process out and ask people to go through it just to confirm their contact information and things like that, and those are really helpful. So there's a lot of applications, but that's what a process is. It's a linear path to take someone through. Processes are made up of phases, and each phase is used for reporting, and we'll look at some of the reporting features in a little bit after we build our process. But the actual kind of going-ons, the real building blocks of a process that someone's going to go through screen by screen, are broken down into tasks. And tasks and phases are similar in that they're created in the same way, but you have to have at least one phase, and then you build your tasks beneath that. The tasks are usually associated with a question set, and the question set are the actual questions that you're going to ask someone in that particular step of the process, and those question sets are built up of questions. Now, one other thing that you will have, there's one type of question which is a multiple choice, and that multiple choice question does have choices that you can add into it. So this is kind of a another smaller piece, you could say, that builds up your process, but this is only in one instance or one particular question type. So as we look at these particular building blocks, we're going to go down and we're going to look at a common membership process. Very, very simple. We've got our contact information, so we want to get the name, address, and phone number from the person that we're going to be communicating with or sending through this process. We want to hear their testimony, a testimony of Christ in their life, and then we want to let them know what they're agreeing to, what expectations are coming from them, and then what the beliefs are of the church, just being able to affirm any kind of agreement or at least awareness of what the church believes. So this is going to be our outline for our process. So I'm going to make this very small here on the side so we can kind of keep that in view. And then we're going to take this and we will also adjust the size here so we can see both, and then hopefully that will work well. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty of making a process. So we're going to go down, or go here and go to Create New Process at the top of our process menu. Excuse me. And the creating of the new process is fairly simple. We're going to put in a title and a description. So we're going to put in here a sample membership process, and in the description we'll put webinar demo. Now the start template is going to be kind of what shows up when you promote that process. So one of the things with these boxes as you're building, especially for the first time, something that I find helpful is to label the boxes so that you see where things show up. So if I go to this process here, we can see, we can see where this step 1, get familiar, step 2, build your city. We can see account settings, messages, and all of these kind of things and where they're at. But what you don't know the first time you're making a process is where this stuff shows up. So if we go back to our screen here, this start template actually shows up as a how the process is going to be seen by the user before they start the process itself. So this is not a terribly important box, but what I found is helpful is to label these so that when you go to your process, you'll actually see what these would be. Now, I'm not going to label them all, just kind of a tip as you're building your first one to kind of build something and put it in so you can see where stuff shows up. But we're going to move forward with this. I'm going to hit create, and now our process is created. Now, when you have a process created, the first thing that you're going to need to do is create a phase. The phase, when we go to new tasks, is actually it's a little bit non-intuitive on what you would do, because you do new task to create a phase. So there's two different types of tasks. One of them is a phase and one of them is a task. So just to kind of let you know where that shows up, don't get confused. It's not necessarily the most obvious thing, like where would I go to create my phase, but there you have it. That's the way that you have to do it. The title here we're going to say phase 1, and we could put in our contact information as our title we have up here, and the task body we're going to put help us get to know you, and then in parentheses I'm going to put task body here just so that we can see where this shows up later, and then up here I'm going to put title, and again I'm clarifying, we've got this title box here, so when we get to the process and we start thinking about formatting the process to make it look better and what our options are, where we want things to show up, this will kind of show us where those things show up. We've got phase. We can't select a phase because we haven't made one yet. We've got our task type as phase because that's our only option, so when we hit create, this will create the phase. And now we have this phase. Now, on your city, if you've just launched your city or you haven't created any processes yet, the next step is going to be pretty tricky. We're going to create a new task, and we'll see down here that we can actually target phase 1, and then this will bring up this new menu, and we can choose a task type, which basic question set is normally going to be the type of task that you would select. But when you select a basic question set, you have to have a question set to target. Now, on this particular instance of the city, we have created many question sets already. But if you don't have any question sets, you won't actually be able to complete this task creation because you don't have any question sets to target. So that's where it can be a little bit tricky at this point, and you might need to go back and create your question sets first. However, since I've already created some processes in this one, and I know that we have a question set that asks for personal data, I can just come down here to membership personal data, target this question set, and then we'll put a title up here, which is going to be, let's actually say contacting you. In the task body, we'll put let us know your most up-to-date information. And then we'll hit create. And then this will create a question set. All right. So we would just kind of continue to move along here. The contacting you actually has the name, address, and phone number in it. So that allows us to kind of do all of those questions in one task. And while we're at this step, let's go ahead and take a jump over to the question sets so that we can see how you do that. All right. So I'm going to go to create a new question set up here at the top. And we could put in a title. So we're going to put sample question set. And the admin description is what you would see in the back end. And then the public description is what you would see on the front end. This is what's going to show up in the question itself. So you can put an admin description, test set for webinar. And then in the public description, you could put something more concrete, which would be like, at our church, we want to be able to communicate well. That requires updated records. And then you can put anything else in here. I mean, you could explain things out however you want to do it. We're going to hit create. And then we have this question adding tool. So we go to question new, and we will say, first name, and then we could put in a description in here. In this particular question set, the description actually isn't needed, but what I want to do is put title in there so you would be able to see how that goes. And then you're going to choose the type of question. So we have a few different types of questions. If we wanted to know someone's first name, this is going to be what we call a live question. And a live question allows us to target an attribute in the person's profile data. So if we go here and put first name, this question will actually update whatever they have as their first name. If they change it, it'll just ask them to confirm it. There's a lot of data here. We can do middle name, last name, nickname, email, birth date, gender, marital status, primary phone type, secondary phone type, home address, so on and so forth. One or two other ones to kind of keep an eye on is this primary community group and primary service group. This will be important to have in there if you're going to use some oversight tools that we look at a little bit later. So I'm going to just kind of hit create here. You guys can see how this question comes in. We've got a first name. Now we could create another new question, and we could name this short answer, and then this would be a type of short question. You can make questions optional. Again, description's always there. Now let's look at these type of questions just so that you know what is possible to create. You have short, multiple, date, checkbox, phone, long, live, confirm, and group select. So some of these are more obvious. Some of them might take a little bit of explanation. So a short question is a box like this for a short answer. Multiple would give a drop down where you select one option. It's not a correct, there's not a correct answer, it's just select one of these, so that's important to note. Date is a box that's looking for a date, you know, an alphanumeric date. Checkbox will actually give you a box just like this optional box to check before it'll allow you to move on. Unless you make that checkbox optional, then they could move on without checking it. The phone is a short answer just like this, and would put a phone number in there. Long is a box similar to this description box, which can just continue to go down and would have a slider on the side if it goes out of the context of that box. Live question sets we talked about a little bit. Confirm, it gives them a yes or a no. Now again, like the multiple, there's not a right answer to the yes or the no. It is simply a yes or no. The group select is an additional one that is a drop down of all the groups that you're a part of, and you can select which group. So those are a brief description on the question types. If you go back to that document that we talked about in the beginning, that one will show you or have a more in-depth description. You can also always kind of check that out on the help desk. Alright, so that's the basics on creating question sets. I don't want to spend too much time on that as it just kind of gets repetitive. You just kind of create them and go. I'm going to go back up to our process. And we're going to come back here to our sample webinar process. And we will come back to our task menu. And we're going to create, we've got our first phase, so we're going to hit create for new. This is going to be phase 2, and we're going to call this testimony. And we'll put in here we'll actually select phase as the type. Create another new task, and this we're actually going to target phase 2, and we're going to make this a basic question set, and we'll come in here. I believe we have something in here that is a sample questions, which is the one I want to put in there. And then we're going to hit create. Oh, actually, before we hit create, we need to put a title in here. Share your testimony with us. I'm not going to put a description terribly detailed. We'll just put testimony. And we'll hit create again. Now, on this phase, even though we have this agreement as it could be a separate phase, if we wanted to track this for oversight, looking at some of our reporting, we could separate these out into different phases. Now, the advantage to that is strictly a reporting advantage. We could take this phase 2 out completely and just have each of these tasks be the tasks one after another, because the tasks are the only thing that the user is actually going to go through. The phases are more for administrative purposes. So for this one, I'm going to hit New, and I'm actually going to stay in this phase 2. And with this one, we're going to select an interview. And we can attach a question set here, same as before. And we're going to put we believe in here. And then this is where we're going to ask that there would be a user or an admin approval step here. So on the completion of this task, we're going to memberize the user, and that would update them from a participant on the city to a member. And then who can approve this? We could have just be done automatically. We could not have any kind of checking on it. But we can also do by required user approval. And we have two options here. So first off, we have this primary community leader, primary service leader, process admin. And what that does is that's going to assign a approval task to first their community group leader. So remember, we looked at those live question sets, and the live question set, one of them was primary community group. Well, whatever they selected as their primary community group, the leader of that would then oversee that particular task and approve this person as a member. If they didn't have a primary community leader, then it would go to the primary service leader, and if they didn't have a primary service leader, then it would go to the process admin. For this demonstration, I'm just going to choose the second one, which is just straight to the process admin. We can give details for escalation and approval. Approve if you know them, and you can vouch for who they are, their character, things like that. Escalate if this person is someone that you don't know and you're not aware of their life at all, or if you know of some reason they shouldn't be, whatever those escalation reasons would be. So we're going to go ahead and hit create. Oh, I forgot to put those titles in again. All right, so we're going to say agreement of belief, and we'll say we believe, and now we'll create that. Okay, so now we have a completed process, but we still need to assign an admin because we have this last interview step, which you guys will kind of see how that works here in a minute. That's a little bit different than a basic question set, but we have this last interview step which needs to have an admin over it. So if I go in here and go to admins, I can add an administrator, and adding an administrator, the way this works is that the administrator is going to oversee people that are in a certain group. So most often what you're going to do is you're going to put your church group here. Let's see, I think it's actually the there it is, the training church, and then the process admin will be David Dietrich. Then when we update, this process now has an admin. Now we could add multiple admins. We could put another group here. Actually, let's do LA boot camp. Should be in here. I can't remember what I named it. There we go, Los Angeles boot camp. And then we could put in another admin here. And if we update this, then we have to kind of look at this real quick and see how this would work. So if I go to admins, this is going to go from top to bottom, and it's kind of like a Boolean logic statement. So it's going to say if the person is in the training church, then the process manager is David Dietrich. And then it would go to the next one and say if person is Los Angeles Boot Camp, then the process manager is Christy Bauer. So it would never get past the training church because everyone is in this church level group. So if you want to do multiple admins, you have to do this kind of training church as the last one. And then you could set up, like, if you're a multi-campus church, you could have your campuses listed first. If you wanted to do if you had like a large men's ministry and you wanted to kind of run anyone who was in that men's group over the men's ministry leadership, or the women's ministry leadership, things like that, you could kind of put them in order. But again, whoever is in this top group as it goes down, like even if we added another one, it would just add one down here. Whoever is in that top group, if they're in that group, then it's going to stop there. If they're not, then it will go to the next one. So just something to keep in mind as you're building your process. The last thing that we're going to do is look at these groups. So group association, actually we'll do one other thing, we'll look at promotions as well. But group association is something where if you have a user in one group, you can put them in another. So say you have a membership process that you actually want to put prospective members in a group together so that you can communicate to them. So you could say if the person is in this should come up hopefully. Training church, then put that person in the Los Angeles Boot Camp. So that means when they start the process, if they're a part of this group, they will be put into this group. So something to keep in mind there as you're going through. That's really great if you have like events that they need to go to during the process, or if you want them to be able to communicate with each other, things like that. So we could update this. And then finally we have this promotions menu. And I'm sorry we went a little bit out of order on that. The promotions menu is going to show a not started promotion template, an in-process promotion template, and a complete process or promotion template, and this would show up at the top of the group. But you also can choose which group to promote this into from here as well. So this is a important actually I'm not going to promote it in there because I don't want to confuse people, but this is an important menu to know as well. Got a couple of questions here, and before we look at the process manager, or before we look at the process that we just created, I'm going to just kind of look over them real quick. We've got in the process builder admin window, can admins be ordered by drag and drop, or will I have to remove and add admins in the order desired? You would have to remove and add them in the order desired, Mike. In the future we might look at some drag and drop kind of things and some enhanced process tools. Process Manager is my favorite part of the city. I think that there's so much possibilities behind it. I think that in the future it will continue to grow, but as of right now you just kind of have to put them in order. Ruth is asking, if there are people in multiple groups, would that affect who their administrator is, or would they have more than one administrator? So Ruth, if someone was in multiple groups, which most people will, it will target them from the top of the list. Let me kind of go to the admin screen so we can see this. It's going to target them from the top of the list to the bottom. So if they're in the training church, it won't go any further, so it won't be confusing after that. It's only it would only be if they're not in this group that they would move to the next step. Does the group move a move or a copy? Sharon, I'm assuming that you're talking about the group association that we made, and it's not a move or a copy, it's actually just an add. So if they're in the training church, it's going to put them in the Los Angeles Boot Camp group as well. It won't take them out of the training church, it's just in addition. I will actually show you promotions in just a second, Leslie, so that will hopefully be kind of become clear at that point. So let me bring up the process, and there's a trick that I use. You can promote this in a group and go to it, or you can promote it into a group and you can go to it from there. For instance, if I put in this one, we could promote it to, if I put it in Los Angeles Boot Camp, kind of update that, then it would be promoted there. And now if I come over here and go to Los Angeles Boot Camp, we can see it right here. Now, when I go to more, there's nothing in here, right? So if I go back to our promotions, and do this, and then we update, and we refresh this page, what we'll see here is now we have a promotion here. So you can embed a video here, you could embed a hyperlink, a graphic, any of the kind of standard embedding possibilities that we have in the help desk, like for the embedding a YouTube video or things like that. You can do that in the process. So keep that in mind as well. You can do them here in the promotion area. You can do them in a question or in a question set and things like that. Let me go to this process in another way now. So here I am at our process basics menu, and I'm looking here and seeing the training.onthecity.org/admin/process_definitions 2206/edit. Well, if I delete the admin and the edit, this is the process definition. Remember, we talked about earlier that this is always the process definition. So this is an important address to remember, because if I copy this, I could actually go to our page just by hyperlink, which is important to know for when you want to promote your process in a promotion itself down here. I know we're using the word promote and promotion a lot, so that can be confusing. Remember, you have promotions on page, you can promote the process in a group, and I guess those are the only two ways. I guess those are the only two uses of promotion that we're using right now, but just keep in mind that there is a difference there. So we have here start template in basics, so this is where that start template from the process is coming up right here. So if we updated this, we could embed a graphic, we can embed a video, we could do any number of things right here. Also here, one thing we're going to notice is that we have this contacting you green button. So contacting you, where is that coming from? If we go to tasks and we see this first question set is titled contacting you. So one thing that you'll notice is that the first question, the button in that task the title of this task becomes that first green button. So if we change this to start now and we update it and we refresh this page, you'll see that this green button will change to start now. So keep that in mind as you're building and designing your processes. We're going to start now. And we can see here, let us know your most up-to-date information. So if we come back here, we see it in task body. This is where this is showing up. Hit next. And here we have basic contact information title, which apparently this question set got tweaked a little bit. So we're going to come back here and I'm going to put a different question set in there. Let's try this again. Okay, let me refresh this page. It should be queued up by now. There we go. And you can see some of the question types. So these are all live question set. Well, most of these are live question sets. We have David and Dietrich, so this is pulling information from my profile. We have a description of a short response question. We can see this description is the actual description from that question. So if we went in and deleted the description, it would just say first name title, and this wouldn't be there. We have description of short response questions, so this would be kind of an explanation of the short response we're looking for, an explanation with the multiple choice title. You can see we've got choices here, a checkbox, so we can click that. The description actually shows up over here on the checkbox. So a lot of the times these are formatted with, check the box if you agree, and then the description is what they're agreeing to. We have our confirmation question, which is just a yes or a no. I'm going to say no apparently. And then we have a description with a long title. So we have, if we just kind of keep typing, then our slider will pop up as well. So once we have saved these and everything is saved, it says we have 2 questions left to answer. Oh, I didn't confirm these, so I'll confirm these up top. And then once they're all answered, then we can go to our next step. So we've got our next one, testimony. And we can see here we've got more examples of questions for short answer. Do you have a short answer to this question? Short answer. There are multiple responses available to answer this question. Can you choose one? Answer 2. Answer with a date. We'll say 10, 10, 10. How about that? And check the box if you agree. Enter phone number. And give us a long answer. Long answer with an exclamation. Confirm question again. And then we have a select group. So again, this is going to allow us to select one of the groups that we're in. Oops. Didn't answer one of those, so I could save and come back later, which I didn't mean to do. But you can, so that's something to note, is that you don't have to go through this process all at once. You hit yes here, and then we'll go to next step. And then this would be kind of what we believe. Then you would go to next. And then this is an interview question. So we have down at the bottom these questions to answer, but you can also see here, because I'm a process administrator, the different sections as we go through. So your interviewer can come in and see everything that they have answered. The task is sent for approval to me because I am in that group. So again, this is kind of showing it from both perspectives at once. But that person is going to be able to go through and answer these questions. And then once all those questions are answered, the process administrator that you assigned over here, the process admin, is going to get the email. It's going to be notified that someone is waiting for a process to be approved. They'll come in, they'll see this screen, so they'll see all their answers and the different steps, and then they'll go and be able to approve, escalate, assign it to someone else, or add a task note, any of these kind of things. So we're going to hit approve, and then that would approve it, and it would all be completed. Now once it's completed, we can go to oversight and reporting, and we can go into our sample membership process, and we can see people in the process, total complete and in process, and we can see how many people are on different stages. So we have one person on phase 2 testimony, and they're on agreement of belief, so that's kind of completed. And we can go to individual people as well, and we could go to straight to the person's profile page. If we click here, you can kind of see how we can jump to that person's profile. And we can also go and view their actual process right here. We could make current process or make current task, sorry. We could suspend the user or complete the user right here from the menu as well. And then we could view all notes if there were any. We can adjust who we want to see, can remove them from the process completely. There's a couple of options there. So that is the basic run through of the Process Manager. Now I want to encourage everyone. I know there's quite a number of people on the webinar, probably representing a wide variety of experience with the city, let alone the Process Manager. Most people, it takes at least 2 or 3 times to kind of go through the Process Manager before it starts to make sense. Now if you're from a little bit of a programming background, then you are a little bit easier, it can be a little bit easier to pick up. But we have had people who are not programmers, not computer people, pick up the Process Manager. One of the best processes that has been made at any church was made by a young woman who was just overwhelmed with the idea of doing it, and she made an amazing process. And it just was very, very good. So don't be discouraged if through this you're going, I just completely didn't get any of that, because you can always watch this again. You can also go through that document that we talked about in the help desk or the builder site and go through that and just kind of look at the different pieces as one after you have some familiarity from the webinar. So let's go ahead and jump back into questions. We've got a couple here. Mike is asking if he can set up a function to remove a user from a group once they have completed the process. If the user completes the membership process, can it be set up to automatically remove them from the prospective membership group? You know, Mike, I'm fairly certain that there is not a way to do that automated. It's possible that once they complete the process that the association would kick out. But I'm not 100% certain. I don't believe that it does, but it is possible. It would be a great suggestion for stuff in the future, something that we're looking at, but it will probably be a while before we look at the Process Manager 2.0. Question says, does the process admin responsible in approving the process receive some sort of form with all the answers? Yeah, hopefully that one became clear for you, Miraria. I hope I pronounced your name right. That interview process or that interview task is the key for them being able to see that. You need to create that basic that task as an interview task. I'm going to just kind of go back in there real quick so we can look at that. So we see in our task menu we have the agreement of belief. This last one is called an interview task, and that allows the admin to see all of their previous answers. Katrina is asking, is there a way to export their answers into a CSV? There is not really a way to export answers to a CSV. There are APIs that allow you to pull some stuff out, but that takes a much greater understanding of programming, and I'm not even sure how you pull those out. I know that a couple of churches have pulled some of the answers out through the APIs, and if you want more information on that, we can get it to you. Tim says, I'm having a hard time getting people to fully fill out their profile information. Is there a default process already created that can be used to get this accomplished? There's not a default one, Tim, but you can create just a simple one-step process that targets or creates a question set with all the live question set data in there, and just kind of put that out and promote it as something you want people to go through. The other thing is, just sending someone if you go into the city and you just see someone without a picture, and you just, that's, if they don't have a picture, that's usually a good sign that they haven't done the rest of their profile, and just start sending personal messages through the city. Sometimes that we've found will help encourage people to do that as well. Just another side tip. Lynn asked if I could clarify escalate again. So escalate is something that you would send it to another person. So in this task, we have our agreement of belief task. We have these escalation reasons. So this would be that, okay, I'm a small group leader or a community group leader. This person has been assigned to me, but I really don't feel like I am qualified to say yes or no on this, so I'm going to escalate it to the next person. Let's see. Joe's asking, he says, you may have said this, but does the report screen here provide a list of people in each phase? The report screen will provide a list of people. Let me go in here real quick. And it's by phase. So if I go to people here, and then I can select each phase. So if I go to like phase 1, and then there is the people that are in phase 1, which is nobody. If I go to phase 2, there are the people in phase 2. And you can export this list as a CSV. John has a question. He says, could you give us some suggestions for using the process builder? Also, do you guys have any templates available? We don't have any templates. I did mention in the beginning of the webinar just a few possibilities. Membership processes and volunteer qualification or volunteer training are kind of the two most common. We also see small group curriculum and other things as well. Kind of get to know the church, a lot of different pieces that would kind of normally fit into a membership process. Seth has a question. Is there a library process? Nope, no library. We would love to make a library of processes available and make templates available. It just is not there at the moment. It would take a little bit of design work that we just feel like would be better spent right now in other areas. Someday we are hopeful that there will be, though. Let's see. Just had the last step notify an admin to remove the person from the group. That would actually work. Rick probably put this in when I was answering one of the other questions about pulling someone out of the process, and that is a really good suggestion, Rick. You can make a admin only task. So if you had in here in our sample membership process a task that was admin only, as we create a new task, you can do put in phase 2, do a basic question set, and you can click this admin only, and this would be a task that only shows up to the admin. And so when that person got the question, you could actually say, like, you know, do you know this person? Have they contacted you in these other areas? Da 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 da, and kind of go through in that way and say, did you remove them from whatever group? If I miss this, can you create new actions to take on task completion? Memorize is the only option right now. At some point, again, those are areas that we would like to add additional feature sets, but at this point, the Memorize is the only option. Mike asked a question: is there a way to share / import complete process sets? There unfortunately isn't. I know that one seems to be asked every time we talk about processes. It totally makes sense. We really would like to do it. When people, specifically new users, complete a process, does it pull certain info into their profile? I think people that do not have a completed profile. So it's going to pull that information that is completed, and the ones that are not will be blank, and they'll have to fill in before it goes. So that's the way that all of those live questions would work. That is the end of our questions here. We've gone through all of them. One more time, I just want to kind of jump back over to the city builders. Rick said, as a member, is only available on the admin page of a user. It is, but it's also available on the task. You can complete a task. I think I might have missed a question or something from you, Rick. You could actually, okay, so that's what you're looking for. Rick's asking if you can have someone enter their member date in a process. Now, you could, but it's not going to change the member date in the admin side of things. So you could have a short answer where they put that in, or a date field that they put that in. You're still going to have to do a group update of information there to really get that rolling. Now, for you guys right now, if you go to this reminder process manager webinar this Thursday, it's going to be at the top of the news feed or very close to it. It's on the Plaza. You can download this process manager PDF. If you're watching this on recording, then the best thing to do, if it's been a while, is just going to be to do a search for the reminder process manager webinar, and in the search, and then you search within your groups. And then search inside of my groups, and then that should bring it up in City Builders. So we've got a title match right here. Now, if you can't find it that way, you can always go to the help desk as well, and I believe that it is available on the help desk. But if it's not, the specific document, all of the notes and stuff are. All right, I think we got one more question in here. It says, I see that one type of live question is a pledge. Is this used for a one-time pledge? No, it's actually, the pledging in the city would be used for your monthly pledge. So one-time pledges have to be entered by an admin in the back end. But that's a very good question, Jillian. And then Rick said something, oh yeah, when we talked about that. So just on the piggybacking on your question, Rick, just since you're curious about that, the easiest way to update member status is going to be to do a group export. You're gonna do an export of all of your participants. So when you go to view participants, you can export that list, and then you're going to just import it back in with the updated information. So you just create a new import, and then you're going to do update user data, and if you just change that, then it'll update everybody's membership date. All right, well, I think that is that. Thank you guys for attending today. We will be having future webinars on future Thursdays on a variety of topics. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to post them on Builders, and we will get back to you. And always feel free to use that help desk. Definitely a helpful tool for questions as they come up. Rick has one last question about is it something that can be linked to the city from ACS people when that goes live? Probably not right away is my guess. The member date might. That might. I don't recall if that was one of the things that gets pulled in. It might be, but I don't know for sure. Eventually, I would imagine that it would sync up, yeah. All right. Well, you guys have a fabulous day. Looks like we've lost a couple of folks as you guys are logging off, and we will talk to you all later.